Woo, I have no clue why talking about this makes me so nervous. Hola everyone, so welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be doing a very quick video about my nursing anxiety or just anxiety in general as a nurse. Talking about this is a very nerve-wracking thing for me in general, but I understand that this could be a very beneficial video for other nurses or other new nurses that are either studying for nursing school or studying to become a nurse, or who are new grad nurses in general. If I'm looking down a lot, it's because I have my notes in front of me, but I do want to talk about the topic of nurse anxiety. I also want to talk about what worked for me and what did not work for me. I do want to talk about the things that did not work for me first, just because I feel like I want to end things on a good note, because there is for sure a light at the end of the tunnel. There is for sure a rainbow at the end of the rain. When it comes to being a nurse in general, I understand that I am 2.5 years late with making a video like this, but honestly y'all, I had to get myself together mentally to be able to even come on camera and talk about nursing in general. I've been a nurse for 2.5 years now. I am currently in Texas, but I used to live in Tennessee, in Memphis, Tennessee, and that's where I took my NCLEX, and also that's where I practiced bedside nursing for the first year and a half of me being a nurse. I started off on a pre and post cardiac unit. I don't want this video to be super duper long, but I'm just trying to give you guys a little rundown of my experience. So yeah, I started off as a pre and post cardiac nurse. I ended up leaving that job after about 6 or 7 months. And it was strictly just because my mental health was taking a turn for the worse, in my opinion. I won't say normal, because I'm not going to normalize that it's okay to be crying or having anxiety attacks and things like that before going into your job. But I will say that it's normal in the sense of like a lot of the new grad nurses that I worked with, as well as just know in general, had moments like that where they were anxious before work. It may not have been as severe as mine, or it may have been worse than mine, but it wasn't always as that bad. So I'm so nervous doing this video, and it shouldn't even be like that. But anyways, I feel like I'm just kind of like opening up a little bit, and so it's a little nerve-wracking just because nursing has definitely caused a very traumatic experience for me. Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. I'll probably get further into it in a different video, but I just want to strictly kind of give you guys a background of what I did so that you guys will understand what I'm gonna say on my list of things that worked for me and things that did not work for me. So ultimately, I ended up quitting that job after about 6 or 7 months, and then I went to a job as a mental health nurse or a behavioral nurse, and I was a behavioral nurse for a year. After that year, well, during that year, COVID hit, so that's another story, which was very traumatic in my opinion. But dealing with COVID as a behavioral nurse, yeah. So I dealt with that for a year. I worked there for a year, and then after that, I quit my job, and then my wife and I got married in that same month. And then after that, I was unemployed. And then when we came to Texas, I live in Houston now, Houston, Texas. I decided to get another job, and now I am a nurse that's working from home. So yeah, but that's a little bit of the background story about what I've been doing since I've gotten out of nursing school. I have had 3 jobs total, no, 4 jobs actually. So actually, before I started working from home, I actually was a vaccination nurse. So I went from those 2 jobs in Memphis to being a vaccination nurse here in Houston, and then now I work as a nurse from home. So I will start off with what did not work for me. So one of the main things that did not work for me is just dealing with it. The whole mentality of, oh, it's only gonna last for a year. You know, the first year and a half, it's gonna be rough as a new grad nurse. You're still like learning, of course. It's completely different. Well, I didn't want to hear all of that, honestly and truly, because I just could not fathom how someone could just be okay with being that anxious for a whole year and a half and just dealing. So that was one of the things that did not work for me. It wasn't therapeutic for me. It wasn't something that I was able to deal with. I just couldn't just deal with it. I couldn't just keep my head up and just deal. It literally became unbearable for me to work, so I literally had to remove myself. I couldn't just deal. So I ended up doing something that I felt like I didn't want to do, and I felt like so much pressure, because it's like, you know, you always hear, oh, stay at your first job as a nurse for a year and then leave, you know, otherwise it's going to be hard to get jobs, stuff like that. I couldn't do that. The next thing is trying to find a mentor or talk to senior nurses. So I do understand that everybody's situation isn't the same as mine. Everybody's experience with that is not the same. However, for me, trying to find a senior nurse to talk to or finding a mentor was really difficult for me. I tried to reach out to certain organizations and the presidents of those organizations, and I'm not gonna say any names or anything because I'm not here to bash anything. I'm not here to bash nursing in general. I'm just sharing my experience in hopes that it will help someone else. But yeah, I was not able to find the mentorship that I feel like I truly wanted, because I wanted the help. I wanted to be able to fall in love with being a nurse and really just be on my A game, and I was not able to find that help. I did have coworkers that were really helpful, and I really do appreciate them. But as far as like senior nurses who I guess were like, could be like a mentor to me and very helpful and very encouraging, and actually give me tips and tricks on how to be a nurse and how to hang in there, I really wasn't able to find that. The next thing is thinking about how hard I worked to get my nursing degree and the fact that I passed my NCLEX. Honestly, especially when I would have moments where I was really anxious, that was the last thing that I wanted to think about. I didn't want to think about, oh, you worked so hard to get to where you are today, and you know, you should be just so happy and you should just keep going because you really busted your butt to be a nurse, and now you just have to like remember that and allow it to keep you going forward. That didn't work for me. Again, like I said, that may be completely different for other people. Other people may be like, you know what, thinking about how hard I worked for this and where I'm at now is literally gonna, it's enough motivation to keep me going. That wasn't me. That was the last thing that was in my head, and when it did pop up in my head, I literally would get like triggered all over again. The idea of quitting or just not being a nurse and stuff did not help at all. Like, it did not help me. So another thing that did not work for me was taking medications. So at one point in time, my anxiety was really bad, to the point where my blood pressure was skyrocketing. Like, I mean 190s over 100 and something. Like, it was dangerously high because I would have so many times where I would be anxious, crying, worried, just in a bad space mentally. And I would feel like those heart palpitations. And I was like, okay, I need help. I need help. And it may be something that I have to take medicine for. I may have to go a step further than just the counseling, or a step further than taking deep breaths and meditating. I'm gonna have to take some medication. So I did go to my doctor, my primary care provider at the time, and I did get placed on a medication to try to help with my anxiety and depression. And honestly, y'all, that did not work for me. If anything, I felt like it made me feel stuck mentally, and it made me feel like I was dealing with things on my own. So I felt like I was still having thoughts of being anxious and what I was being anxious about, but I just wasn't able to outwardly express them. I can talk about that in a whole different video if need be, but I took a prescription that my doctor gave me to help with anxiety and depression, and it did not work. I ended up weaning myself off of it because I did not like the way that it was making me feel. And then the last thing that did not work for me was thinking about disappointing others or disappointing family. So sometimes being a nurse can be very hyped and very positive thing. Like, people around you could be very proud of you, supportive of you, of the fact that you are a nurse, and literally want to encourage you that it's a really great career, you make a lot of money, etc., etc. But I just feel like I need a lot of nurses to speak up more on just how easy it's not being a nurse, and how the money is not that great, dealing with some of the things that you deal with. So yeah, thinking about disappointing my family and the idea of quitting or just not being a nurse and stuff did not help at all. Like, it did not help me.
Yeah, yeah.